Hey guys, welcome. We're going to get started here in a second. We'll let everybody give them a minute or so to get in. We do have a tight schedule tonight, so we're going to try to get this in and out as quickly as possible in terms of the pleasantries, but I'll give everybody a quick second to jump in. Damn, got a lot of people coming in.
How many people we got?
Got 110. It's like climbing by the second.
Oh, there it is.
Well,
Sweet.
Yeah, man. All right, so I'll start with this, guys. Thank you so much for coming to the clinic for the the Gaylor family, helping Kinsey out. We threw this together at the last minute. We knew that we wanted to get as much support to the Gaylor family as possible. So I whipped out the old iPhone and started going through. I was about to say Rolodex, but I think that's a really old timey. I think it's an out of time phrase there. But trying to get as many coaches as quickly as possible for Coach Gaylor. He's done so much for so many of us, and we wanted to give back. And I'm really, really happy. Well, before we get into that, real quick, if you have a question, drop it in the Q&A. I don't really have the time or the bandwidth right now to be like going for raised hands and all that stuff and bring people up to the stage. So if you wouldn't mind, just drop your question in the Q&A. I will get to it as much as possible. Coach is just going to roll, and I'm going to be here helping him out. We're joined by one of my favorite coaches and people in the game, Mike McDonald, defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Coach started out at Cedar Shoals High School in Georgia as the linebacker coach and running back coach. Went to the University of Georgia as a graduate assistant, defensive quality control assistant, and went to the Ravens in 2014 as an intern, then became a defensive assistant and then defensive backs coach, working his way to linebackers. And in 2021, he went to the University of Michigan, dominated there. Really fun. I still watch your Michigan stuff, by the way, from last year. And then was called back to be the coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens. The most handsome guy in all of college football. Welcome, Mike McDonald. Coach, thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, brother. Just happy I can help, but always love talking ball. And hopefully everyone's able to at least pick out at least one thing here and that they can use and bring back to their programs. And just really looking forward to hearing your questions. And I got something quick that I whipped up for you guys. But excited to be here, and hopefully we can generate some money too, and for a great cause.
Awesome, man. Thanks. Well, so the topic today is creating a defensive pressure package. So Coach, take it away, and I'll be here if you need anything. I'm taking notes.
All right. So. I'm gonna share my screen here. Since our COVID year, my Zoom skills have dwindled, but let's see what we can do. So are we good there, Vass?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So just to put everybody kind of in our defensive staff room, about 5 years ago, we're about in this phase of the year about talking about our scheme and things that we wanted to be able to do, and we looked up on the board and we had a bunch of tags and words and stuff, and we had a hard time grouping it and really making sense of the whole thing. So really, to John Harbaugh's credit, he created a vision for where he wanted us to go. But the problem we were facing in designing our pressure package here in Baltimore was it's kind of like the English language. Over the course of the time, there's been so many great coaches and coordinators, and it's really the scheme had evolved, over really a 20-year period. And we had a lot of words that kind of meant one thing and didn't really connect to other things. So we wanted to streamline it. So really our problem that we had was, hey, we got too much memorization here. We have too many types of pressures that really should be grouped together. And, we felt like every week it was just too much memorization on the guys, especially rookies, new guys to the system, that sort of thing. And we felt like it was a lot really path dependent on, on from week to week and the things we had done prior. So in order to move a line, it was like we had to change 3 words and totally reteach the thing. So I was like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So how do we create a system that is flexible enough for us to evolve week to week? The guys can learn it and then something that they enjoy learning and we can have some fun with, and really put some pressure on offenses. So that was the question we had back then. And the next thing we looked at was, well, instead of let's think about our problem, let's think about what do we want instead. So how do we make it likable? So the best thing I can do to explain how we built everything was really our system is built on concepts, and it's like a slot machine, so we're only really teaching certain things right here. If you can see, I'm going to do the annotate deal. Like in this role right here, there's only so many things in this area of our scheme that we have to teach. Likewise here. So really the first concept that we have to teach our guys is how we set the front, and trying to get my annotate deal, is how we set the front. So, there's really only about 4 or 5 fronts that we carry in our scheme, and those should be easy to learn, so that's the first thing. The second thing that we start to teach our guys is patterns. So whoever's in the blitz, whether we're sending 1 guy, sending 2 guys, sending even 3 guys off the ball, there's certain patterns that go with, who's in charge of blitzing and that sort of thing. So, again, only so many things that you can fit in that wheel, and then the guy should be able to learn. And then the third thing that we would package with that is coverage that go with it. So you can see here, each kind of wheel in the slot machine is one section that guys will learn, and then once you start to lay it together, that's how you create volume within your defense. And then when you get really good and you kind of get to the graduate level stuff, and the guys have a great feel for it, you can start adding different personnel packages, and then you can add, and then guys within certain personnel packages can be doing different positions within the scheme. So the idea here is you're only teaching a finite amount of things to each player, certain concepts, and then as you build, your scheme, and as you get more complex, and then people understand how to do those, certain concepts and certain techniques, now you can start to really build a all-inclusive package where you can change it from week to week. You don't feel like you're reinventing the wheel. So that's the idea of how we built this thing out over the last 4 or 5 years. So any questions so far, Vass?
Nah, man, you're great. I like the picture. Did you do that yourself?
I did that. Yeah, that was about 20 minutes ago. And I had animations and PowerPoint and everything. So the GA
dude, you're a beast.
Coming strong. So we'll get to this down the road, but just one thing that we have the luxury here in Baltimore is we got the radio thing. And then so when you go to Michigan, we had to signal everything. And so that's a challenge that we had to do, because if you're pairing all these fronts in the direction of the front, the pressure and the coverage together, I mean, you could possibly get into like a West Coast type of offensive call where it sounds like a daggone paragraph, so that's hard to signal in. So we tried to get it down to 1 or 2 words. So there's a couple things that we do, to try to make that streamlined, especially when we went to Michigan. The first thing is we just want a stock way to run a pressure. It's just a 1-word call. All right. And that's pretty common throughout systems. But as you want to start to add sauce to what you do and to kind of make it like kind of sweeter, per se, is we want to add some sauce to it, but we don't want to add a lot of verbiage. So the first thing we start to do is we'll just pair this pressure and the coverage aspect. So every pressure is understood with a certain coverage, rather than spinning different coverages that are applied to certain pressures. So for example, if I just called like a nickel, if I just said the word nail, that means it's nail fire zone, and we're not playing any sort of other coverage behind it. And then that way you can eliminate that word. Then the third thing we can do is the second signal that's in there will be the first signal is the front, and the second signal is the pressure that includes the coverage. Now the front, that's that'll be a loaded term. So we actually denote certain types of fronts in our system that mean, hey, this is a third down front, guys. All right, this is some sauce going on. We're trying to populate the line of scrimmage to add people and try to add confusion to offensive lines of protections. And that's all we got to do is just say, the word wide or load or rush. And that'll click into the fellows that, hey, we're adding some people at the line here to try to make it more confusing on the offense. And then the last one is
want to jump in real quick. Is there any way to move? I think you did, where it said like you're sharing your screen or whatever off the screen, because it's I don't know if it's for everybody. On my end, it's obscuring. There you go. Yeah, because it was obscuring. There was a big gray bar at the top. Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. And then the last way to kind of dress it up, and this is the last section, is how do you incorporate disguises within what you're doing? So you want to keep the picture moving on the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. And so we would actually layer that with an extra disguise signal, however you want to communicate that with the guys on the field. So if anybody has any questions on how to do that, I got ideas for you guys, but
I have a question. Could you talk more about that?
Well, so the disguising or the signaling is a dang art in college now, because there's so much sign stealing and all this. So whatever your system is, I would include that in how you get that signal to the guys. So you can be as creative as you want. It could be something that people weren't expecting on the sideline. It could be a manager, the guy that stands right next to you, and you can give him the signal as well. And then guys in the back end, they're the only ones that have to look at it and worry about that signal. Where the guys up front, they don't care what disguise you're doing in the back end. So, but I wanted just to click here into how we started to teach these things. So the way we did it was we have a thing called pressure stations. So basically, this is an OTAs. This is in the spring. This is extra time you got, with the guys. But as you build out your system and you start to kind of categorize the types of pressures that you want, this is how we would rep it with the guys. And we just have 4 stations here, and a coach at each station is just running one pressure, all the different ways with all the different fronts. And you're applying and you're talking to the guys, and you're going really slow about, hey, what are we doing here? And then how are we, what's everybody's rules? And then as you do get good at the drill and you start guys getting a good feel for your pressures that you're doing, then you can start to layer it with more fronts. You can start to change guys' positions, and everyone starts to understand, okay, when we just say the word, I don't know, Brady, Favre, whatever your one word call is, and people understand what they're doing, now you can understand, everyone knows what all the X's are doing, and now you become more interchangeable as time goes on. So we can watch some of these here, but it's really simple. It's a however long minute period, but you like down here, I'm giving them a front right now. I'm giving them a call. They got to get lined up to the formation. All right. Normally we'd have some sort of like dots here to indicate some sort of formation or some sort of motion. And you can get more complicated as you go and build it over time and make sure the guys are good on communication. And then everybody understands what they're doing. So right here, we're making sure that everyone's applying their pressure rule based on the front and what we're calling. And then you can coach them up on the fly right there. And you're getting a ton of easy, cheap reps on the whole defense, and everybody's getting reps, and you can build that out over time. Any questions so far? Just big picture wise, I'll get into this a little bit more.
Do you prefer multiple signalers or one guy signaling all of it? I know you kind of touched on that, but.
Yeah, so we would do both. We'd have anywhere from 1 to 3 signalers, depending on who we were playing. We wanted to keep that moving throughout because we knew a lot of teams were stealing our signals. And so we were trying to protect ourselves with that as well. Yeah, but if you can get everything down to 2 signals or less, I think you can get to the point where one person's in charge of the full call. Once you start having to signal three or more signals, I think it just becomes too convoluted.
We have one more question, and maybe this is something to touch on later, but since you prompted me, I'll throw it out there. Coach, I'm going to screw this up. Friesenborg asked, he's fairly new to learning schemes in football. When would you want to call a fire zone?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think how we generate our philosophy and what we run and when is really based on what we're trying to defend and what offense are doing in that situation. So, for example, on early downs, on first and second down, Okay, fire zone. Well, why would you call fire zone? Are you doing it to manipulate protection and get a free runner at the quarterback? Well, probably not. The amount of actual drop back you get on early downs for us is infrequent. So it's really about attacking what types of runs you're seeing and play action protections that you're seeing at our level, because we don't see as many RPOs. When I was at Michigan, okay, the fire zones would probably be, you have to understand how they're going to react to the fire zone in the RPO game and the throw game. So now you're thinking about how you're going to play the coverages when on the pull and throw reads. On third down, it's the same idea. Okay, well, they're probably in some sort of pass mode. So now I'm in more of a protection conscious type of idea on the patterns that I'm going to try to run, which I can get to here in order to try to manipulate and attack the quarterback.
And then a quick one from me, because you talk to a lot of the college guys. They'll run more of the Sims versus 10 and 11, and more fire zones versus like 12 and 21. But since you're in the NFL and you have these $40 million pass rushers, now I know at Michigan you had a Jabo. No, do you have a Jabo in Hutchinson? Yeah, because I remember texting you one day. That 97 guy's really good. Who is he? Like 2 games from the end of the season, just messing with you. But did you feel like you wanted to drop guys less, edge guys less in the NFL, where the fire zones became more omnipresent for you in scheme, or did you keep your philosophy when you went to Michigan versus the Ravens?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to that, but to go back to your personnel thing, I think it comes down to space. So simulated game against open formations is a little bit more, it's a little less risky. You still have people in windows, and the number game is still in your favor, and you're not sacrificing that when you are simming. So you're just dropping one and blitzing one. As soon as you're blitzing a guy and not dropping a guy, there's a lot more space, especially in the college game and high school game when the hashes are so wide. So the fire zones, if you're playing a true zone, there's a lot of windows out there and throwing lanes for quarterbacks. So that's something less than just who's dropping. It's really more about in terms of space and how I see it. So there's a lot of room for the sim game in the NFL. But you're right. It does depend on the types of plays you're seeing. If it's a lot of quarterback under center, big people, 21 personnel, the sim game is probably not where you want to be, because you're trying to play run and play action pass and convert. But, if you're facing teams that are like 11 and run a lot of college type concepts, then there's definitely a spot for it.
Awesome. I got some messages that I know I'm answering in the chat for you, because I know what you would say. Otherwise I would do you teach the front first and all that stuff? So go ahead, Coach. Sorry.
Okay. So just when you're designing your pressure package, so I'm on the screen here, and this is just kind of a stock formation in the NFL. So this is just a 3-by-1 set. This is our nickel Sam, Mike, dime. So our 3 off the ball backers, and these are our 4 quote unquote down linemen and our 4 DBs here. So we're just in, on a 4-2-5 type of alignment. So as you're building your pressure package, to me, I would think you need to ask yourself, okay, how many ways do I want to be able to blitz one guy and drop a guy? Okay. So, and then don't worry about fronts or anything. Just, okay, let's just say, well, it's going to be hard to blitz this dude, so he's out. Okay. Well, this guy we can drop or blitz. We can drop this guy. Okay. We can blitz this guy and drop this guy. We can blitz this guy and drop this guy, right? Or we could blitz the weak corner or the weak safety for that matter and drop somebody. And that's just bringing a single person and dropping a single person. And you start to categorize that, and all those should fit into some sort of category for you. So it's easy, and it's easy on the player. So as soon as you say a quarterback's name or a basketball player's name or an MLB team, everybody's clicked into, hey, we are in this world and we're rolling. Okay. So like what I was talking about earlier, if we just say like strong side sim, like for us, this is just what we call Favre. We're just bringing one guy and we're dropping a guy. We're playing cover 3. There's not a lot of like sauce, okay, to this pressure right here. So we're just rotating down strong. We're playing cover 3. All right, we're blitzing a guy. Here's your 4 rushers. We're rolling, and we didn't have to add a lot of like front manipulation or anything like that. Plus this is also 2nd and 5. So we're not thinking drop back pass per se. Okay. But this is inexpensive pressure just to bring a guy off the edge. Now, same pressure. Okay. And as you build out your fronts, we're still going to bring the same guy. It's the same backfield coverage mechanics. We're still playing cover 3. Everyone's doing the exact same thing. Okay. But all we're doing is making it look different. So as you're building out your pressure, you say, okay, look, I want to be able to bring the guy off the slot or my field side outside backer. Well, what are some other front presentations that I have based on the personnel that I can do? Okay. And keep it the same as. So this is the same word for us, but all we're doing is packaging a different front, okay, which means certain things to these guys, like I showed you in that slide earlier. And now this looks like a completely different pressure against the same offense, okay? And we're still able to manipulate and affect the quarterback. But this guy is doing the exact same thing. He's doing the exact same thing. This position's the exact same. His technique's the same. So there's 11 guys on the field that are all doing the same thing, but in terms of how we line up, pre-snap is different.
So why would you like a mug front here? What are you because I know I was talking about this. Football coaches are intentional, right? There's a reason we do everything. So why would you choose a double mug front here instead of a single mug? Is it to get the guy to come up so he can bring the nickel off the edge? What are you thinking here? So
protections is a complete numbers game. And it's all about how they block the presentation that you give them. So all it is there's 5 down linemen and there's a 6th back, possible 7th blocker. Okay. And so this is just film study and how they block different fronts, but you're trying to either take the running back out of the protection, okay, and have him block the A gap, and bring somebody else out. Like Dave Aranda always says, show out to rush in, show in to rush out. I mean, it's that simple. Show left to rush right, show right to rush left. So this is just another front that we can get in, but the point of the matter is it's the same pressure, okay? It's the same thing. So if you were to go back and we were working this pressure, okay, we would say we could get into wide. We'd just go back right here and everyone's knowing it and you're just changing the fronts. And then you're teaching the linebackers how to line up because of that first word that you give them that tells them how to line up. And then you're giving them the pressure.
Talking about this, guys, real quick. No state secrets. I know I told you that before. And if you choose not to answer, nobody's gonna be upset. But I notice a lot of the times you'll show weak with the safety and then show the strong safety high in the middle of the field and then spin those. Is that part of a bucket 4 and your 4th step of the disguise signal that you would have given at Michigan?
Yes.
Dirty man. You're a dirty man. The first time I saw that, I was like, you dirty SOB.
Just to give you an idea of just like most protections work where they're going to start at the mic. And how they relate to this guy is based on team. So a lot of teams, they might just block the 4 down and the mic with the 5 inside guys. And this back is either responsible for him to him. That's like a base way to do it. Well, how do you know who the mic is? Well, he's the guy in the middle of the three dudes that are most, that are most threatening to blitz. So in this situation, in a 2-high safety, well, you would say, well, who's the interior? Who's the middle guy of the 3? Well, it's the mic. That's easy. Okay, so the center should set for him. Well, all of a sudden, let me get to this one. Well, all of a sudden, now we rotate the safety down this way. Okay, well, if he's down and this guy is back, and these are the 2 interior guys, so you got 1, 2, 3. Well, all of a sudden, now the weak side backer is the middle of the 3. And that's a base way to understand it. So as you start to manipulate your safeties, okay, not every team respects that rotation all the time. So if you're watching on tape that they definitely respect it every time you're showing down, then this is something, the tool in your tool chest on how to change it. The other thing it does is on the snap, anytime you're changing the picture on the quarterback, when the ball is snapped, I just think you're just constantly, it's an easy way to put stress on the offense over the course of the game. And if you continually put pressure on them and make them execute and read it out post snap, that's going to create some positive plays for you. And it's inexpensive on the defense. These are things that you guys keep doing over. You're running the same pressure, but you just added a different front and you added a different disguise behind it. And you should be able to play really, really fast and play the way you want to play.
Well, and that's one of the questions in the chat. By the way, I'm sure those guys are yelling, Abby. Do you get the Abby calls from everybody? Abby, when you walk up like that? Jackson Roberts asks, with the amount of talent and turnover at the NFL level, how do you balance an overall pressure philosophy? This is actually a really good time to talk about this, with drawing it up week to week based on specific players you have available. Like, because you can't go, because there's so much injuries and like roster limitations. If you base your whole package on one dude,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden that guy gets hurt, then what do you do? Kind of a thing. Like, how does that work?
Well, so there's a couple aspects to that. That's a great question. So this is one of the reasons why we wanted to streamline our pressure package. So from week to week, you're telling them that, hey, Red Sox means you're in this world. You're in cover 3 world, and we're blitzing the guy from the strength and we're dropping the guy from the weak side. Okay, that's Red Sox. Now, if we add a front to it, like wide or show or something like that, all we're doing is just changing the presentation. So when you get to the next week and you say, hey, we're running Red Sox from this alignment, there's a lot of carryover there, okay, for people that just show up. So the concept is staying the same, and you're not having to reinvent a new thing. You're not having to say, well, this last week that was Red Sox, this is Blue Jays. No, it's still Red Sox. It's just the pre-snap picture. That's all it is. Then the second thing I would say is that the biggest challenge in the NFL with the personnel is if you get really specific with personnel groups, certain guys only do certain things, and someone goes down in the middle of a game, that could knock you out of a few things. So if you do that, which there are spots for multiple personnel groups where you can get, really fancy and things like that, you just have to hedge your bet and make sure there's someone that knows what to do if that certain person goes down.
Awesome. Thank you.
So if I can move ahead here, like when we first built that thing out and we said, okay, how many ways we want to be able to, blitz guys? So the way I would do it, if you're just starting on at square one and you say, okay, well, we're a 4-down team, or maybe we're a 3-down team, and just draw up a base way. Well, we want to be able to blitz this guy and drop this guy, blitz this guy and drop this guy. And you start to package it together. That's the first thing you got to ask. And that's your sim world. That's your blitz one, drop one, and all your coverages behind it. And then what you got to ask yourself is, well, now let's just blitz one guy and not drop anybody. Well, that's a whole new world now. Now we're in 5-man pressures. So what coverages do you want to play that? Do you want to play fire zone? Do we play cover 1? You want to play 400 2 deep? Play 2 trap? I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do. Now, I will say this, you can't do everything. So you got to kind of picture what you wanted. But as you build this thing out, you can start to put it in, categories and how you do it. So like this is just let me get to so this is our weak side pressures. So this is an easy way to do it, but this is the first thing. So if we're just blitzing a guy, well, shoot, we're just going to have him blitz the gap, just like we saw with Kyle off the slot the last time. But we're still in a certain kind of a pressure package because we're still 400 3 deep. Okay, but we're just bringing it from the opposite direction. But my point is here is like you can start to, this is still all the same pressure. And this is Michigan, but it's just as a fancy look, but all it is 4 down. It's the same exact pressure, but we just told these guys, hey, look, now you're in the gaps. Piece of cake. And it's a completely new pressure for the offense. Now they're not going against Michigan and Ravens tape, but it just gives you the flexibility, to affect this guy and make him make a bad decision. Well, we still want to pressure the same guy. Okay. We still want to pressure this guy right here in the weak side B gap. Well, instead of just blitzing through the gap now, just in like an Abel or a Baker, now let's add a twist to it. Let's add some sort of pick. So let's start to layer this thing. Okay. and make it and add a little sauce to it. So instead of one-on-one with the back, let's say I want to get this guy free. Well, now we can pick the tackle and wrap this guy and now get and ricochet and still affect the quarterback. Okay, but you look back in the coverage, what do you see? It's still 4 under, 3 deep coverage. Okay, 4 under, 3 deep, piece of cake. There's nothing changing. Well, what else changed? Well, now we blitz the guy off the edge and we drop the quote unquote 3 technique. So now we're starting to layer it with personnels and guys changing positions, but it's all still the same call and you're in the same silo. So their teaching progression is the same and you're layering it over time. So you can add, and I keep saying the word sauce, but you can add sauce and it looks different for offenses, but it's the same for you. Any questions?
No, I'll let you keep rolling. There's some questions, but we've stopped enough. I want to make sure you get to your presentation.
Okay. All right. So we're just building out a pressure pattern. So we just blitzed one guy from each side. And look, there's a million ways to pressure. I mean, it's all over the internet. Who you want to blitz and all that. So now you can blitz one guy and bring 5. Now we want to bring 2 guys. Okay. And we want to bring double edge pressure. So this to us is just one term, just whatever you want to say, double edge, call it barrel. Okay. Well, if I'm going to bring 2 guys, all right. All right. And I want to drop 2. So this is a separate pressure pattern for us that we call, and now you can start to layer the fronts and it's still the same techniques. All right. For everybody on the field, but you're just changing it from play to play. So here's your double edge. You're dropping 2 interior guys. Okay. But you can see the quarterback, as we're playing 400 2 deep right here. Here's your 400 guys, but we're just changing it up on the quarterback. So same pressure structure, completely different front than we just showed. So now we're going to bring this guy, bring him, drop these 2 D tackles now, and still bring double edge. It's the same exact pressure call, okay, it's the same exact pressure call, but just with a different front and a different personnel group, okay? So now these are the 2 guys popping out. We have double edge, all right, where we can eat up the back on one side. All 5 linemen right here initially are accounted for with these 5 initial droppers. And as we pop and drop, okay, now we can get 2 on the back.
I got to say, your guys do a really good job of engaging and dropping. Too many guys just drop and they drop out, look out. The O-line sees the guy go and they pick that stuff up. But what doesn't get talked about enough is the reason these guys are coming open is because you guys are engaging them so they can't get out. I see that so much. Coaches, make sure you're doing that if you're dropping guys.
So this is we're in really a man type idea here. So these guys, their coverage responsibility is very limited. They have landmarks on the field that they're going to. Everybody else is accounted for in man-to-man techniques. So these guys are really not responsible for a person. So we coach this to be patient in their drop, to actually engage the guy and then pop out. If they were to have if this guy, like if Calais Campbell was in charge of the middle hook, it's hard to get him to connect to a guy and pop out of there and be able to get to a landmark when he's 300 pounds and 6'8" or whatever he is. Okay. I thought this one was interesting here because, again, you're still building out your pressure system. So now we're saying, okay, we're just blitzing one person here off the ball. These are our 4 down linemen. This is an inside backer. This is another down lineman. So again, we're changing the front. All we're doing is just blitzing one guy. So, and then these guys are operating off a certain coverage that we did. So in this case, we're in fire zone. Okay. So these guys, all they care is that the coverage is fire zone. They don't care about what else is going on. Okay. But we dress it up, and now we can bring interior. Now we said, okay, well, we want to blitz this guy in the A gap. Well, that's great. Okay. But you know, also is great is getting all these linemen accounted for. Okay. And then creating a twist inside, all right, to put stress on the offensive line and put the back in conflict right here. So making sure the offensive line is accounting for the 5 guys, and then again, show out to rush in, and then adding a pick element to it, okay, where they're in some sort of man conflict in their blocking assignments, and now you get a natural twist and build it, okay? But if you were to go back to that initial slide that I showed you earlier, this is just a front and the pressure. And everyone knows this is, let's call it stack, dime, fire zone. And that's it. And that's how we ran it that week. So to answer the person's question of how you build certain things each week, okay, well, this is just dime, fire zone, but this week we're riding a pick and we're playing fire zone out of it. Same learning for nine of the guys on the field. 2 of them now, they're just changing up their pattern. So we're really running the same play against Cleveland, making it look a little bit different, changing the personnels. This was Justin Houston. Now this is Adafe Owe. Okay. People are in different spots, but everyone else is running the exact same fire zone technique. Okay. But changing it up. And now you start to bank reps over the course of a season. So you're not just rerunning pressures every week and you're, reinventing the wheel.
Question in the chat. Do you ever change the front mid-game or switch between fronts on like something like your baseball blitz that you use as an example? Will you ever be in a game and be like, hey, I think I see something. Let's mess with it. Okay,
so great question. We have talked about doing that. Like we used to at Michigan, we would say, okay, let's run what we call nail, which is the mic and the nickel, and let's just run it at every front we got. So let's say you guys get really good at some sort of pressure pattern, and you really like it. Well, what I learned was make the offense block that shit, man. Make them pick it up, make them figure it out. So if that's something you want to do, I think that's good ball. And you're executing pressures fast, and don't give the offensive line too much credit. If you're blitzing the way that you're supposed to blitz, then you're rolling. I mean, one thing I learned at Michigan is we should have blitzed a lot more. I gave protections too much credit, and our guys are really good blitzers. We should have let them go more. But we had great edge guys, so they did a great job as well, marrying the rush and the coverage. But the other philosophy you can have going in is saying, hey, look, we're going to live in these 2 fronts all third down. We're going to practice it that week, all week. And we're going to give this, it wasn't the case for the Bills game, but you say, hey guys, you give them the drawing. We're going to live in this front right here. Okay. And out of this front, let's call it, I found this on the web. Let's call it rush. Okay. We're going to live in this front. We have 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. Well, out of this look right here, okay, we could bring the mic and the nickel. Okay. We could bring the nickel and the dime. We can bring the dime inside and run a twist. We can run safety and dime and drop the mic. We can drop one, blitz one, okay? And you can just say, hey, we're just going to live in one front and give them the whole gamut of pressures and coverages to go with it. And that way you can add flexibility to you as well and affect the quarterback that way. So there's different schools of thought. And it really just depends on what you feel like your personnel lends you to. I found that it's easier to go in with not as many fronts and the guys and try to make everything look the same, and then try to build your pressures that you want based on the situation out of those minimum fronts going into each game.
That's interesting. I thought it would be the other way around. Interesting.
Anything else on this one, guys?
I think we're good. We had a question about run fits just quickly. When you're doing your run pressures on early downs, how much are you talking about that and thinking about that in game planning?
Very much so. Very much so. So each offense that you're going to go against, they have to have some sort of bread and butter. Otherwise, they're probably not a very good offense. So if you're seeing an inside zone team or a stretch zone team, we're building our first, second down pressures off of those types of run schemes that we're going to see in the blocks that we're getting. And the way I think about it is what are the main fronts that we're going to be giving these offenses? And then how can we give some relief to the guys and try to create a negative play to get these guys off schedule? Hopefully you have some sort of enough built-in movement or game to go with it. And your guys now you're in pressure mode. So if they do convert to play action pass, now you're able to generate some pass rush as well. But the main thinking right there is making sure we handle the run game when we do our early down pressures.
Another question, and I know this is it's impossible to do this, but let's just try to work it out here. When you're like in a game where you have a special front and you're doing everything out of it, right?
Yep.
What's your general feeling on how much you're going to straight rush out of it versus I know some games might be 80-20, but what's your thought process about, hey, we need to at least just 4-man rush out of this at some point? And the games where you get into bluff looks and then only rush out of it and just throw in the blitz. Like, what's your thought process there?
So we've had a philosophy evolution here. And really it depends on what you're trying to defend, in my opinion, and then what you're good at on defense. So the reason I don't go crazy with like super exotic pressure look fronts because I do want to be able to rush out of that. So one of the questions you want to ask yourself earlier in the week is how we want to 4-man rush this team. Who's our best interior rusher? Who's our best guy that can win one-on-one? What are our best 4-man games that we can run rush and coverage out of? And what are the top coverages that we can run on in these passing situations to make sure that when we do populate the line of scrimmage with linebackers, they're not in conflict as well. So those are all sorts of things that you want to be asking yourself as you build out the plan and make sure you're able to pressure out of looks as well as drop out of there and play coverage.
That's a really good thought there. Did you have any more of the presentation, or do you want me to go to questions? How do you like?
I think unless somebody wants to see some more like ways that you can pressure out of these looks, I think the questions are probably better right now.
Well, let's do questions, and then if you have anything you want to talk about, because I do have a question for you. We talked about before we hopped on. Ryan Osborne wants to know.
Oh God.
What's your best pressure versus duo? Osborne worked for Coach Mack, by the way. Literally just stopped working for him, a week ago?
Yeah, a few days ago.
Few days ago. Okay, there you go.
Oz is on the recruiting trail right now.
Yeah.
I'm upset that he has to ask this question.
Oz, answer your own question in the chat. No, but seriously, because we're starting to see more duo stuff. What's something you like versus that?
I think of it as two. So to me is I would draw up my front against duo and build and then draw in how they're going to block it against the front that I'm going to be in the most. And now I want to take blocks that they're going to have and I want to move them. So the guys that's getting the single block, I want to wipe those blocks. So a lot of times I'm moving into the duo. And I can wipe the center's block so I can edge pressure away from where the tight end is a lot, or I want to create space in the C gap and I can try to penetrate it there. But anytime we're looking at like early down run pressures, it's all about the blocks that you're going to get and then how you can move and manipulate those blocks to try to get someone either running free or to attack those run schemes.
Good stuff. Thank you, Ryan, for that question. We appreciate you. Oz also worked with Coach Mack at Michigan. Did he work for you? He didn't work with you anywhere else, did he?
Yeah, Michigan in here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm not going to ask Coach how he did. Well, actually, you did see Buck sweep in Michigan. What did you like versus Buck sweep?
Man,
pressure wise.
So, if they were running buck sweep against us, I would want to get in some sort of odd spacing. So you have overlap, and I want to be in some sort of split safety, double edge pressure. But anytime they're pulling guys and overlap, I'm either thinking create singles, create overlap and width to the defense, so on split safety, or I'm thinking plug it up the middle, some sort of run through for guys. So if they want to pull guys all day long, okay, well, shoot, just plug a guy. All right. And you might just run dang near right through there. Actually, I have a clip of this.
You want to pull that?
Yeah, we can go to the next question. I'll pull it up.
Okay. Here's a good one. I don't know how comfortable I feel talking about this. And if you don't want to, it's totally okay. We reserve the right to say pass. Nobody will be mad at you. Can you give a high-level overview of what went into the 2021 Ohio State game prep game plan?
Oh, boy.
You can say pass. You can say pass because I know that Jesse, who will be here tomorrow, is still there, and I'm just gonna guess.
If you look at the stats, Jesse might be a better guy to ask. Dirty little secrets. We gave him about 400 yards of offense in that game.
I feel bad. I put you on the spot here.
No, it's all right. I'll tell you this: in order to beat great offenses like that, okay, you can't let them throw the ball over your head. So you got to make them earn it, and then you got to spend a lot of time in the red zone and on third down. And if I remember correctly, on third down that game, I think we played them okay, but we lost some critical fourth downs. That was a lesson learned that if you go into that game, you say, hey, if we're going to win this game, we have to win it this way. Well, in order to do that, we're going to have to survive some long drives. And if we're going to win at the end, they're going to be in some fourth down and medium situations. Let's make sure we have a great menu going in, that stuff that we really like. So that was a lesson learned as a play caller, was I play the game out like that if you're going to win, and make sure you have those situations covered when things that when they pop up, the game's going the way that you expect and the way you hope, that you're ready to roll.
All right. Well, here's one from the man of the hour, Adam Gaylor, who this is all for. So we got to ask his question. I can't just skip his question. And this is actually where we connected the first time we talked, was about this topic. How do you chart / label your pass pro? Do you chart the turn to the center, to the Y or away, to and away from the running back, to and away from the passing strength? And he also says, thank you for being part of the clinic, coach. We were texting while you were talking, and I was like, this guy is a gold-nutted stud, isn't he? And he's like, dude, he's awesome. I love watching his defenses. I'm so happy he's here. So you made the man happy, coach. So thank you.
Yeah, coach, appreciate it, man. Honored to be a part of this, bro. So when I was a GA, we charted this thing, and then you'd go down all these different. I'm like, and when I started charting it in college or in the NFL, you realize offenses only have a certain number of protections. Like if you look at, it's 2 or 3 jet, or it's 50 scat, or 51 or 52 or 50 or anything like that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to scout and study how they block and how they recognize and ID formations when they're in that protection. And so it's not exactly 2 and away. Now, sometimes it could be 2 and away from the back as a start where the sort goes, but you're really just trying to get what their rule is to start when they leave the huddle. And then that's how you help build your protect. That's how you help to build what do I want to present them with? Because how am I going to anticipate how they're going to react based on the looks that they've gotten in the past, the looks that we've given them, and then we can go to work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this. You said the problem with the NFL, I believe you said this, your notes that when we met was literally sitting right next to me, but you said something about like there's so much cross protecting in the NFL. Yeah. That it does, like, that's why they do it, right? They do it just to mess with you. Like 3-by-1. I think we talked about this. 3-by-1 open, the back's almost always going to be weak, right?
But in drop back situations, yeah.
And teams are going to 50%, not 50%, but they're going to cross protect a bunch to hide those tendencies. So it's almost like, well, instead of trying to figure out what they're doing, let's dictate what they're going to do based on what we tell them to do, kind of a thing.
Yeah. So my thing is, if there's a team that does a lot of, they're hiding their protections with either center back opposite or they're cross protecting, like Vass is talking about, then it's like, well, let's not even screw with the numbers. Let's just standardize it. Now let's get them to a 5-0 and make them respect, that we're in a balanced formation. And now let's dictate to them what they have to do. And then that way we can stay ahead of the 8 ball.
How much are you, because I know when you're designing your pressures, a lot of it is, and this is just from guys I've talked to, so you may be completely different on this, but a lot of guys say like, we're gonna prepare for base protection, scat protection, jet protection, but as soon as we see like not stay where the tight end's going in the back sleeping, but 7-man protection, we want to kill that, and we either want to get to Coach Pruitt called them Charlie beaters, I think. I don't remember.
Yep.
We're either going to change our protection if we think we can get to them, or we're going to kill the protection. How much of that is in your planning to be like, hey, the back and the tight 3x1 back and the tight end are on the same side. They're going to slide and put the back in the tight end off the same side. We need to go to this, or they're going to truly go Bob and have 2 guys inside. Like, how much of your game planning is like getting out of that stuff or maximizing the pressure you have called?
Yeah, you definitely have to account for 7-man protection. And you'll find that the more you blitz, the more 7-man you're going to see, because especially, I mean, even at our level in the NFL, if you show a bunch of junk on tape, it's just not worth their time to go through every look and try to block it up based on their rules. So they say, screw it. Let's just full slide the thing, put the tight end and back together, 3-man route you, and let's roll. So, those are decisions that you have to make as you're building your plan. Like you're saying, Bass, either, hey, we know that we're getting this protection when they give us this formation, and we got a sweet pressure that'll hit them to do it. There's a spot and there's a time and place for that. There's a time and place for saying, hey, I'm not sure when they're going to go to 7-man, but even if we're in a 5-man rush, like our dudes can get there, and we're going to at least have a couple one-on-ones that we can win. Let's not overdo it with all these checks and all this other BS. So our guys can just go out there and execute the call. There's a space for that as well. And then there's also a space for, hey, we're bringing 2 off the edge right here. They're going to have this picked up. Why even run against the wall? Let's check out of it and go to rush and coverage and double 2 of the 3 guys that are running a route. Then, those are questions you want to ask yourself throughout the week. And a lot of times it's going to come down to whether or not you can anticipate them being in that particular thing. A lot of times if they have a certain personnel in the game, we know it's going to be 7-man anyways. So it's like, screw it. We got a tight end on an outside backer that's making $20 million a year. Like, I like that. Let's go play freaking cover 2, and now let's go to work. So it varies.
I love talking to NFL guys because they'll throw that in there. Like, why am I going to drop my, and it's nothing I don't really think about that. Well, I mean, I'm paying this guy $22.7 million this year.
Yeah,
he's got a rush. And it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Like, these guys, and he probably has sack incentives. So when you're telling him he has to drop, he's looking at you like, you taking money in my pocket, dude? I'm sure there's some of that.
This was an example here, Bass, of going to basically what we're doing is they're tackle over in the situation here, but we're getting a pin pull scheme. And so if they're pulling multiple guys, we're going to try to run someone through at some point just to make them honor this, so they're not just pulling 8,000 people to get it on the perimeter.
Why wouldn't they pull the guard in that situation?
Well, this is a situation where they've never ran this out of tackle over, so they're trying to manipulate the front. They probably practiced a couple ways that week, and we had never seen this, but this is an example of just a guy hitting the pressure really hard, timing it up, making them respond to us, and all of a sudden you create a negative play. This is the same play call as the ones I was just showing you picks against the Saints, but it's just not dressed up with a certain front, but it's the same coverage mechanics and everything else that I just showed you, but this is just a first down call.
All right, last question, then I'll let you roll. Thank you so much for doing this, by the way. I can't thank you enough. You're one of my favorite people in the game, and I download your games every week. All my buddies on Huddle can attest. They're like, why is he's just uploading Ravens stuff? Like, why just the Ravens? But now you know. Last question, paths. what are like your top 5 pressure? And let's talk pass pressures, because run, it's going to be singles in the middle, edge guy, one edge. Yeah. And you talked to him a little bit, but you said nail. So what are your like top favorite, if you had to gun to your head, 5 patterns that you like the most? And let me caveat this. That would also be good for high school and lower level college.
Yeah. And my philosophy on this fast has changed over the years. And I'm going to be real simple with you right here. We're going to get you with 5 up right here. Like, and you talk to offensive line guys, and just like 2-man games, if you can create separation, or if you can make the back as part of that equation. So the first thing I would ask you is just make sure whoever has the back is in the pick, because you have separation between the back and the line. So if this guy were to fan out and CJ was to come in here and pick, that's a very hard pickup on those 2 guys. You've seen that with the Saints, those things that we were doing earlier. I think that's very difficult on offense. So that's one of the reasons now you see the back start to move up, so they can kind of build the wall on these interior picks. But the next question would just be, however you want to draw the lines on 3-man games up front. And I mean, there's so many versions of this that you can get to. The Niners are great at it. And just understanding, you can just run these 3-man games over and over. So like double penetrator with a loop inside 3-man game, A and B gap getting vertical with a looper here, and he stays in the B. You can work one side, 2 inside moves, and a loop. This is a good like flush thing for the quarterback. Okay. But really and then however you want to personnel it. Again, guys, these are just X's, man. It's just X's, however you do it. And it's easy to teach. You get 5 chairs in a room. You get 5 guys line up, and you just tell them to run a whatever game you want to call it. And then you tell them to move, and everyone grabs a different X, and you run the same game, and you just do it over and over and over again till your guys get it. And they'll get a better feeling as you rep it, of like understanding that guys have to get in gaps before you loop, and the timing of these things as you go. I wish I had more time. We could go through how we teach it, but really that's the most inexpensive thing to do. And it's probably the hardest on offensive lines to pick up consistently.
Awesome, man. I wish we had more time. I really, really do. I have to jet over to talk to the one and only Bobby April III, not the second, not the first, the third. My man, going to talk some cover 3. I don't know how this works because I'm a moderator, but there should be a link for you guys to go into the clinic. Mike, did you get links as a speaker to go to everything as well?
I didn't, but if you sent it to me, that'd be awesome.
Okay, I'm going to work on that in between my 90 seconds that I start the next one. Thanks, brother. Right. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And
hopefully everybody got something out of that. But good luck to everybody, and it's my pleasure.
Awesome, man. I'll be in touch. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
All right, guys. See you in the next clinic.